All right, welcome everyone to today's Google Webmaster Central Office Hours Hangout. Today we'll be focusing only on app indexing. So all web search related questions that aren't about app indexing we'll kind of skip over. We have some special guests here, Maria and Christoph in Zurich.
Hi,
And
everyone.
we have a short presentation planned today about product updates, about best practices around app indexing, so how you can get your Android app into Google search. Also iOS apps nowadays. After that, we have a question and answer part where you can still submit questions through the event page if you want. And we'll be going through those. As I mentioned, we'll be skipping over all kind of web search, website-related questions that aren't tied to app indexing. So with that, let me hand it off to Christoph, who will give us a presentation, some insights about app indexing.
Thank you, John. Hi, everyone. My name is Christoph, and I'm based in Google Switzerland. And we're going to start today with a couple of updates about the product. Then we're going to give you some tips about best practices, and then we're going to open it up for Q&A. So John, if it's possible that you display the presentation, then we can get on starting. Okay, great. So first, let's start with having a look where are we right now with app indexing. So we've been working in the past couple of months in order to improve our implementation to make it easier for you as developers to integrate your apps both on iOS and Android. So let's have a look a little bit where we stand right now. So we have 100 billion app Deeplinks index, and this number is increasing very fast. Apart from that, around 40% of all Android searches return deep link results already. So as you can see, the amount of deep links is increasing very fast, and I thank you all for being part of it. We have a couple of new updates that we wanted to share with you. We released our integration with iOS 9, and we have a couple of partners live already. You can check out our latest documentation on our website. The integration itself is very easy and straightforward. You basically have to implement universal linking and add our SDK to your application. And by doing that, your application will be integrated in the search result pages. Now, one thing worth mentioning as well is that we are simplifying as well the Android implementation, and we are working on a solution called Android App Linking, and this solution will be also a simplified version of integrating your application with Android. Basically, the only thing that you have to do is to use the HTTP scheme, then upload a JSON file to your domain, and that JSON file will specify the list of applications that you want to connect with your website. And then by using AppIndexing API, you'll be able to report to us the activities that you want us to connect with your website. So stay tuned, and we're going to have a lot of new updates about this very soon. We've been asked frequently what are the main benefits of implementing AppIndexing. So we want to use a couple of minutes to refresh that knowledge on this area. And we want to remind you that we announced in April this year that AppIndexing influences the Google ranking. That's one of the main benefits. Apart from that, it allows you to acquire new users. So for users that don't have the application installed, in this example, users looking for hotels in London, you can see that we suggest applications that have answers to your queries. And by doing that, we promote your applications, you can install the app, and then you're going to be redirected directly to the content displaying the things that you were looking for. Another business benefit is that we increase traffic to your app. So this is something that you've seen before as well. If you integrate app indexing within your app, we're presenting the deep links in this attractive visual form. And one thing that we want to focus your attention to is that now AppIndexing API is a core part of AppIndexing implementation. So we strongly encourage you to implement this part as well. It's very easy and straightforward. It just needs a couple of lines of code. And it gives you this great functionality of autocomplete. So in this example, a user was looking at some article in the Daily Mail application, and then he closed the app and he was doing something else. And when he started to type the query button in the Google search app, he started to get those cool autocomplete, which leads you directly to the app. One thing which is worth mentioning is that with Android Marshmallow, we've launched this great feature called Now on Tap. And Now on Tap is based on app indexing. So in this example here below, you can see that a friend wrote about a meeting tomorrow, and he proposed to meet at the Central Park Zoo. So in this case, if you have the Android Marshmallow installed, then you're going to tap the home button and hold it for a while. We're going to start generating Google Now cards. Those Google Now cards are going to display you app proposals that will allow you to open the content inside of the app. So in this case, if TripAdvisor implemented deep linking and integrated their app with app indexing, we're going to propose to open the Central Park Zoo within the TripAdvisor application. So this is a great feature, and there is actually, if you're going to implement your application with app indexing, then you're going to get this functionality for free. So it's definitely something worth checking. Okay, I'm going to hand it over to Maria, which is going to give you an update about best practices and what to do in order to make your application well integrated with app indexing.
We've had a lot of questions regarding specific steps in the implementation, and we've tried to accumulate the key steps that are the most important. So I wanted to cover a few key things here, and hopefully you can then share it with people who are actually doing the implementation or on your end, or you can look at this yourself if you are the person that's actually implementing app indexing in your app. So the first step is to make sure that your app and your site are ready for app indexing. And the first tip here is to use HTTP scheme. So it makes it a lot easier for us to handle this content, and also it's the schema that Apple is recommending or requiring rather for iOS. It will also be something that will help us in the future with new feature integration. So if you are not already using HTTP scheme, it's something to consider. And if you're using custom scheme, we're still going to support it for the time being. But think about implementing HTTP scheme. And all of that information, how to do it, and how to set it up is available on our developer site and also in the Android docs. The other thing, after you've implemented the necessary changes in your manifest file, as well as used HTTP scheme to set up your deep links, is to make sure that you've set up the association between your site and your app. This is also something that is required both for Android and iOS, so you'll need to do it either way. And you basically need to tell us that you are either the owner of both of these things, or you know the owner of the site, and they're willing to associate their site with your app. So the way this works right now is either from the Google Developer Console or from Google Search Console. Once you've implemented app indexing, you can go in there and send their association request. That request then goes to the site owner in Search Console. They can approve it, and after that is done, we've got the association. If you have used the AppIndexing API, as Christoph very strongly was recommending earlier in the talk, then this means that we'll be able to use your site structure in order to discover the different deep links, and you basically don't need to do anything. So this makes it very easy for you in terms of implementation, because it eliminates a lot of the work that needed to be done on the website side. We got a lot of feedback from various app owners that it's difficult to coordinate between the website and the app. So that's why we introduced this method to make it easier for you. And as Christoph also mentioned, because when you're using the API, we can see how users interact with your app and how much they like it. We're able to then give you an additional ranking boost if we do see that your app is very popular and people like it a lot. So all the documentation for the AppIndexing API is available on the developer site, and you can see which methods you need to implement. It's basically, you need to send us the title of your app page, as well as the start and the end time of the view process. So you need to implement those two methods. And you can use either the documentation on the dev site, or you can follow through our code labs, which we have prepared. And if you then have any questions, you can ask either here in the Hangouts that we do, or in the Webmaster Forum, or on Stack Overflow. So we monitor all of these channels for questions that are coming in. So once you've set all of this up, then comes the time to see actually what you're getting out of this. And here we've tried to provide you tools so that you can get the data in terms of impressions and traffic from search. The first thing that you need to do is to add your app to Search Console. If you are a webmaster, you're probably very well familiar with Search Console, but now it has expanded its scope to cover app content as well. So if you follow the short URL, you'll be able to verify your app there, and after you associate it with your site, and we process and index your content, we'll actually send you a message when your app starts receiving impressions in search. So you can go right there and see what's going on. And if you haven't received this message, this means that either we're still processing your content, or perhaps it hasn't been relevant for a specific query. So, yeah, patience.
Matt, eu estou participando do Hangout aqui.
If you want to ask a question, feel free to type in the chat while we talk. We're gonna have a look at all of these questions later, and answer the ones which are in the Q&A section. Right. So Search Console is your friend. Add your app there, and then we'll send you a message after your data is available. Then you can go and keep track of your impressions and clicks, and you can see also the queries for which your app content was showing. So you can get a good idea of how search is contributing to your app. This is how the Search Analytics report looks for an example app. So you can see that we show clicks and impressions data, as well as we can calculate CTR for you and the average position. So you can have a look at how you're doing. And we also show you the queries. Another thing that we're looking into and working on right now is to show you also how many installs you are getting through search. So specifically, we show you when the install button appeared in search results, and this is specifically for the indexed apps, which is what Christoph covered just a little bit earlier. And it will take people directly to the content within the app, so it's not something that just takes them to the app homepage. And we'll be able to show you how many times the button appeared and how many times people actually clicked. So you will know also, in terms of discovery, how search is contributing to your bottom line. This is how it's going to look. We're in the process of working on this now, verifying the data and setting up all the infrastructure that is necessary for it. So if you want to have a peek at the early version, you can sign up to be a Search Console tester, and then we'll contact you if we decide to include you in that preliminary group, and you will be able to check out how this would look for your app and give us some feedback. So definitely sign up if you're interested. This will also give you the added benefit that you're in a pool of people that we would consider testers for potential other features in the future. So we might contact you for other things as well if you prefer to test secret stuff. Finally, after you've seen how you're doing, let's take a look at what you might do if you're encountering some issues. We do detect several specific issues, such as if your app doesn't support a specific intent and we cannot open some page, we'll let you know. Also, we'll let you know if you're having issues with your back button not working so that people cannot go back to search results from your content. And all of that will be available through messages right now. So if you receive a message like this, then you can go and use this amazing feature, which is called Fetch as Google for Apps. This is also available within Search Console. And you'll be able here to see which APK version we're using to test your page and how we rendered that specific app page, as well as when we fetched it and if there are any blocked resources that are preventing us from rendering stuff. So this is very useful to see how your app content looks through the search engine's eyes. And since we've been very strongly recommending usage of the API as well, we are now in the process of adding information about how we are handling your API implementation. So maybe let's just go to this first. Oh, I guess we took this out. But basically here in the, I don't know, will the mouse be visible?
Yes.
Yeah. So here in this section, you'll be able to see the API response in terms of what we found. And so you'll see if there are any surprises there. If you did the implementation right, ideally the title and potentially in the future the description will be listed here so you know what's going on. Another piece of feedback that we've gotten a lot over the past several months is that people want to be able to test their implementation prior to publishing the new version of the app in the Play Store. So that's the feature that I accidentally previewed for you guys, which is Fetch as Google with an unreleased APK. So what you can do here is you can simply upload that APK to the Fetch as Google feature and then see how we would handle that. If you think that everything is okay, you can go ahead and then publish it in Google Play Console. So that's available for everyone to try, and thanks for everyone who tested it ahead of time. So these are just a few basic tips which will hopefully help you have a smooth experience in terms of implementation when you're on your own and doing all of this with your team. And so now is the time to ask questions. If we can switch off the slides. I see that we have a few from the previously asked.
All right. So where do you want to start?
Can I ask one since I'm on the top of the QA?
Sure, yeah, go for it.
So I'm focused mainly in Latin America, where we deal with a lot of Portuguese and Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
How do we get indexed for multiple languages? There's a lot of information about getting indexed in this language or that language, but if an app exists for Spanish, Portuguese, English, how do we get it indexed for both? Do we target just our main language, or, I mean, is there a focus? Should we split out and have multiple apps?
Right.
I can take that. So the multiple language obviously is supported, and we support several scenarios in this. One of them being that website has a unique URL for every language, and there is one corresponding app deep link for each web URL. Then another scenario would be that your website has a unique URL for each language, but there is only one deep link in your app, and then application uses the system language settings to display the correct language content. And then the first scenario is that the website has one of the URLs for all languages, or only one of the languages supported, and there is one corresponding deep link. So this means that the website and the application must display the content in the same language when there is no preference set. Is this something that answers your question, or?
Sort of. I mean, I think it generally answers it. The problem is that we keep seeing the English one popping up, even though it's set as the third language inside the Play console, and it's kind of only for 5% of the users down here. and the volume is so small, but when we look at it, it's like 80% English coming in.
When you say popping up, do you mean the types of content that is
When
rendered?
we look for the links on a phone that's set to Portuguese, or one that's set to Spanish, or one that's set to English, the queries that it shows up for are in English, and then the matching corresponding queries in Portuguese and Spanish with similar ranking on the mobile site, the deep link isn't showing up.
Interesting. So this is, I guess, a case where we would love to see some examples. So
Okay.
if you could send them to us, then we could have a look and debug deeper into what's going on here. But that's an interesting situation, and one which we've already been through with websites. So I'm sure that we'll find the solution, and you're helping us get closer to that solution. So thanks.
Awesome.
All right. Next question here about iOS 9 deep links. Will it be possible to see SERP referrals in our app analytics? Will we be able to differentiate between regular paid PLA clicks? Will we need to make changes to our app analytics tools to see SERP referrals? Oh, lots of questions.
Yeah, I can see that everyone is excited about iOS. So we're working on ways to demonstrate to you the traffic that you're getting. And we don't have anything to announce right now, but we know that this is a big request on the part of iOS developers. So as we work and release more tools, we'll make sure to let everyone know. So keep an eye out for blog posts, tweets, and Google Plus posts on both Google developers and Google webmasters. But for right now, we hear you, but we have nothing to announce at this moment.
Okay. We'll have more for this iOS 9 question. First one, do iOS app index web pages get an evaluation boost as Android ones would?
So to my understanding, they would get the original boost that we announced back in April, but they would not get the AppIndexing API boost purely because they're not using it.
Any plans to highlight app-indexed iOS 9 apps in Safari search results, like app install buttons or relevant apps, carousels, panels?
Yeah, it's unlike the web with different operating systems on phones, it's a little tricky to implement exactly the same features everywhere. So we're experimenting with a variety of things, and we certainly have a lot of plans. But again, as we are developing things and as we're testing them, we'll make sure to announce them. But it's good to hear what people want to know and have.
Okay, here's an interesting one. Any plan to expand the site : info : or cache : operators from desktop search to app index pages?
Yes, we also have been working on this. But for now, there's nothing that can be used externally. So if we do decide to release something in that respect, then we'll definitely announce it.
Okay. Is it possible to app index a content which is already indexed in another app? So the site owner can link his website to 2 different applications.
So I'm not really sure I understand exactly this question. Is it that the content is repeated, or is it that there's 2 separate apps connected to one site? So maybe, Cedric, if you are around, maybe you can clarify either in the chat or add another Q&A, and then we'll... if you have different apps in general, which cover specific parts of your site, you can definitely match a specific part of your site by setting up the association with one app and then another part of your site with another app. But I'm not sure if this is...
Just to extend this, Maria, because we had a partner with a similar use case, it's possible, for example, to add annotations for a mobile and a tablet version of your application. So if your content is available in a tablet application, a mobile application, you can go ahead and add those meta information to your website, and then it will work accordingly. Maybe that was this question.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think the question might be that let's say you have an app. Let's say you have multiple apps. So you have like the Google My Business app. You have the Google Maps app. You have whatever, all linking to one website, google.com. Is that possible?
Yeah, so you would just need to set up the annotations correctly so that the right content is matched to the right things.
Okay.
But again, in this question, I'm not really sure if they're referring to two apps with the same content or two separate apps with different content. So maybe if they clarify, then we can continue.
Okay. In which cases should we use the custom scheme?
In no cases.
Uh-oh.
We recommend the HTTP scheme. I mean, if you are already using custom scheme, then we'll continue to support it for the foreseeable future, but we strongly, strongly recommend using HTTP scheme. Try to do that. And if you have some really strong objections to that, we would actually be really curious to hear what your considerations are there. So get in touch with us on Google+ or in the forum.
Will the app indexing capability be added for Swift 2 in iOS 9?
So I think we have no information about this so far, so we cannot comment on this. Like Maria previously said, we're experimenting with a lot of things. iOS is one of the new products area that we're working on. So please stay tuned. We're going to inform you about possible support over other channels.
All right, and there's one question about verifying with Metatags, but I don't think this is really relevant for app indexing.
Yeah.
So let's open up for questions from you guys here in the Hangout.
Barry also had some questions.
Oh, there was one question in chat.
I was wrong. I'm seeing data. I thought I wasn't seeing data, so I apologize. I had to click on the impression tab because nobody was clicking. So I had to click on the impressions to actually bring up the data. Very cool.
Well, I'm sure you'll have clicks soon.
Just keep clicking on stuff, please.
So what did you end up making an app for the Search Engine Roundtable blog, essentially?
Yeah, we released the Android version. I didn't announce it yet, so you can actually download the Android version. The iOS version is just waiting for approval, so hopefully any day. But there's obviously no way to verify the iOS version, right? There's no way to verify the iOS version in Google Search Console, right?
We don't show data in Google Search Console right now for iOS, so there's no functionality there for iOS at all.
So I guess my first question would be, you said at the end of this month iOS will start showing search in the search results for apps. Is that happening now, if we look?
Yeah.
Okay. I couldn't find any.
So it depends on what kind of apps you have installed, right? Like, it's a little bit different than websites. So if a specific app has been indexed for iOS and it is, everything is working correctly and the implementation is all right, and then you have it installed, then we will show it for you. Because remember, we're not showing install links on iOS. So it could be that the apps which are indexed for iOS, you just don't have them on your phone.
Okay.
Yeah, John, actually, I had one question about mobile site, if this is relevant to this Hangout.
Probably just about app indexing. So Android apps, iOS apps.
Okay.
For the other website, mobile site questions, I'll set up separate Hangouts again.
Okay.
All right. More questions about app indexing. What's working for you guys? Where are you getting stuck?
I could keep asking questions, but I don't want to hog the channel.
Go for it.
All right, so my other question is, so you obviously are looking at how much time people spend on specific content within the app using AppIndexing API. Is there like a specific, like if we're storing this metric as well, and we're trying to increase engagement and stuff like that, is there a specific, like, is it like 2 seconds how are you measuring that? Like, what's the ranking boost? When does it click on? really.
Right, yeah, it's 4.5 seconds on a full moon. So
wait.
as with
I couldn't hear that. I don't know what happened.
you don't write about this in search engine land. So as with everything else related to websites, we've had these discussions for websites also, like keyword density. Should it be 20 keywords per page? Should it be 30 keywords? Like, these are discussions that we don't want to get into, because the thing with apps is that you need to offer a great experience to users. And maybe they'll solve their problem in 30 seconds, maybe they'll solve their problem in 15 seconds or in 2 seconds. And it's not possible to set some kind of like metric, which would be like, if they spent 2.5 seconds on this page, then that must be a good page or a bad page because they left too soon or whatever it is. It's like it's really not something that you need to focus on. I would really suggest instead looking at the conversion, which is the ultimate reason for which that app exists. So either they subscribe to something, or they read a specific number of articles and they see a specific number of ads, like whatever it is, or they buy stuff. So let us figure out the ranking stuff on our own, and don't worry about these kind of metrics, because that only goes to you chasing a specific number, which either doesn't exist, or if it would exist might change. And then it's the same thing as with websites. If you focus on providing a great user experience, that is also what we want, so we will then try to push you to the top.
Can't blame me for asking.
I know.
I have a question here.
Sure.
Hello, I have a question here. I've just shared an image on the group chat, if you can see it. Last week we had a bug on our app indexing, and then we fixed it. But if you see the graph, our total clicks kept on the same trend, and our impressions grew up a lot. Have you ever seen something like this before?
So we actually need permission to access that image that you shared.
It's not shared. I thought
know.
it was. Let me check here.
Maybe if you make it accessible to people with the link.
Yes, deal. It's done. Here is the link. Yeah.
It still says we need permission.
No? Oh my goodness. Let me check here again. Anyone with the link? Any more? Okay. Now I think you can see it.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, so our impressions grew a lot, but our clicks remained flat.
So what is, did you see any change in the types of queries for which you're showing up?
I'm not sure. I didn't analyze before and after we fixed the bug.
And what kind of bug did you have?
It's a callback that we are not checking before. Then when we fix it, start growing again the impressions.
Yeah, that is something we should probably look at specific URLs. I mean URIs of your app. So we can already see here the name of it, and if you send us some URIs for which you saw a strong increase in impressions, but we can have a look at that for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for the documentation and the detailed questions.
All right, thank you.
All right. Do we have any?
Yeah. Actually, this question was regarding app index. John, I also went through some kind of articles where it was suggested by you in Google Plus that Search Engine Land was giving that article, where the Google shows in different kind of our app in search results, sometimes open in app, sometimes install. So in one website I saw that Google was also showing its deals, and there was a install button just besides that deal. I just wanted to know if I required to use schema in app as well to come up in search result with my deals, or if in desktop it is used, then it is okay. How they were showing their deals in app result?
I think if they have app indexing set up properly, then we would try to recognize where to show it. And we have different variations of how we show the link to the app. Sometimes it's the install button, sometimes it's a link directly to the content.
Right.
That's something that we can do when we know that there's an app there, when we understand the relationship to the website, when we understand that they're implementing it properly, then sometimes we can show that.
But just to clarify,
Okay.
I thought I heard the word desktop. Like none of this is available on desktop. It's only on your phone.
So means if means all I have to do is just to get my app in app indexed in a well way.
But I'd say like all you have to do is a lot of work. It's not that there's like a simple meta tag and then suddenly you have an app and suddenly it's tied to your website. There are a lot of steps involved in making a really good app that works well, that matches your website, that uses this app indexing API properly. It's easy to say all you have to do, but there's actually a lot of small steps in between.
So are you developing both the app and the website yourself, or do you have a team that takes care of that for you?
No, actually, we have our developers team that is developing the app. All we have to do is just to provide them the guidelines how to match the content with desktop site, and
Right.
then we yeah.
So we have the docs and the steps on this on the developer site. It's we can just put the link in the chat, I guess. It's d.co/appindexing.
We'll add the link to the video comment as well. So if you're watching this later on, you'll find it there.
Another thing that we have also is code labs, which take you step by step if you're a developer through the process that you need to follow to make sure that your app is capable of handling app links. So you can have a look, and then if you have a question, then feel free to come back. It's great to see that you're starting from the source. So you want to know how to do it, and then come to Google.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, more questions.
More app indexing questions. Barry.
Apps designed in pink do better. Not true. Green apps do much better.
Is it green? Okay.
Totally.
Have you seen anybody spam or try to spam this yet?
Not that I'm aware of. I'm sure that there will be enterprising people and adventurous people who would like to experiment. But as with any product at Google, we do take into account that this will happen, and so we've set quite a few things in place to make sure that this is preventable and detectable and so forth.
I mean, it's also something we have a lot of practice with spam. It's not that we...
A little bit of practice.
Well, there's a lot of spam out there, and because you tend not to see most of it in search, I'd like to say that we have some really smart people working on recognizing these types of issues and hiding them in a way that doesn't disrupt your experience in search. So, but it's something where, especially if it's a new technology, it's worth keeping an eye on it, and it's sometimes hard to know ahead of time exactly how people will try to kind of sneak their way through, but it's certainly not something that we're just going to be surprised by.
Oh, okay. Thanks for adding the HTTP there.
All right. More questions about app indexing. And no followed link.
No, I don't have many questions. Everything sounds great.
All right. I mean, otherwise we can stop here. Let me just double check to see if there are any more submitted questions. Verification. Okay, here we have one. For news type sites with apps, is there any concern about duplicate content? Is there going to be a way for publishers to determine the value of having an app?
It's a great question. We're actually looking into this, like how app indexing affects or is beneficial to various apps in specific verticals. So for news, apps where they provide benefit is that you can, first of all, load things a lot faster, and second thing, send push notifications. Let's say if you let your users subscribe to specific types of news categories that they're interested in, then you can just send them, I don't know, like sports scores or politics updates when the big story breaks out and you have new content in your app. So that certainly helps with re-engagement. That's one benefit of having an app. Again, as with most apps, we've noticed that it's usually loyal users who already are familiar with your brand and they like the content that they see there to the extent that they're interested in installing something actually to be with them always on their phone. So I think that it basically serves to strengthen your already existing user base. And then maybe through app indexing and installs, you could be discovered by users who don't even know that you exist. But I totally agree with you that as a news publisher, the first thing is to set up clear metrics in terms of what return you're expecting, because it's a lot of work to develop an app for 1 or 2 or even more operating systems. And yeah, things like time spent on app, things like if you have ads within the app or native ads, like how are people interacting with those, and how much time and how many times they return to the app versus people who are on the website. Maybe something related to subscriptions as well. Maybe subscribed users can get more premium content, but this is like more in the realm of business decisions rather than technical implementation. We are looking at this though to see how different verticals can benefit from different search products. There is no concern about duplicate content. So we do understand which content is in the site and which content is in the app, and when it's relevant we show one or the other. So you know that news can interact with the search results page in many different ways. So you can show up at the top in the news section, or we have a few different carousels for in-depth articles, for example, or it could be also content within the app if people are actually, you know, if they have it installed or if we think that they should install it. So you have many different options there, but yeah, I would say go first with exactly what you're hoping to get out of the app. Maybe look at some other popular ones. For example, we have a case study with the Daily Mail who implemented app indexing, and then it's interesting to see what happened to their app after that. And that is linked to from the same website where we just posted the link in the chat. So have a look at that first and then think about what makes sense for you. But don't worry about duplicate content.
I mean, with duplicate content, it's also similar to like mobile pages. If you have an M-dot page and a normal web page, we understand that the content should be equivalent, and it's not that there's any problem from a technical or from a quality point of view by having this content in multiple places. And adding an app version of that doesn't really change that at all.
Yeah, it's just like on your end how much time you're spending maintaining all of these things and what you're getting out of each of them.
Yeah. Okay, here's a bit more from Cedric about his question with multiple apps. It's concerning 2 separate apps in competition, and my website is present on both. So the apps are kind of a reader.
That's a very interesting use case. So I would say in this case, it's more the competition on the side of the apps themselves rather than your content. I would look at which one has more of a user base already, because like we said, for Android we do show install buttons, but for example in iOS, if they're indexed on iOS, we wouldn't show install buttons, and we would only show, in the other cases, we would only show the app deep link if the person has the app installed. So if one of these apps has, I don't know, like 5,000 installed users and the other one has 50,000, you probably are more likely to show up for the one which has 50,000 as they're searching. So I would look at it from that perspective. But if you send us the link to your app and the sites, that's actually a really interesting use case for us. Not to debug or anything, just to see how it's set up.
Yeah. And here's one about first click free. Can you explain the requirements for first click free for app content?
So the policy is exactly the same as what we have for websites. If we're sending people to your app straight from our search results, we want to make sure that whatever they were looking for, they're actually going to see, as opposed to seeing some sort of paywall screen or requirement to set up an account and so forth. So we have the same requirement that if you are going to request or get traffic directly from search results, that those people coming from the search results will be able to see the content. And we actually do show errors for that as well in Search Console if we've noticed that there is some kind of pop-up or other paywall pop-up that is blocking the content.
All right, and this is the verification one. So I think we made it through. Wow, yeah. Any last questions from you guys here in the Hangout?
So, John, if you put just the g.co/appindexing studies, just for the case studies, or
yeah, we can add the links to the video page afterwards and to the event page. So if you're watching along, we'll have more links for you there. Otherwise, if there are no more questions from you guys, maybe we'll just close it down. And I'll be setting up the next batch of Office Hours Hangouts in maybe next week. So we can get back to the regular schedule with the webmaster type Office Hours, and we'll definitely be setting up more of these AppIndexing Office Hours as well. Thank you for joining, Christopher, Christoph, and Maria. Really interesting presentation. Lots of good questions and lots of good answers. Thanks for submitting all the questions. Thanks for joining, Barry.
And thanks for all the suggestions in terms of iOS analytics and the other tracking that you were interested in. So we'll definitely have this in mind.
All right. Then with that, thanks everyone, and we'll see you in one of the future Hangouts. Bye.
Bye.